Getting your first job out of university is mostly about who you know nowadays. I mean, you can still get hired through a job ad, but it's just not going to be as easy. Even engineering and comp sci majors might have a problem finding a job out of university. The real problem is not really technical skills, it's more social skills. It doesn't really help that there's a stereotype that millennials are really lazy. So one of the things that you have to do is find something to put on your resume that shows that you are not lazy. Usually this means volunteer experience. I recommend definitely getting that and putting it somewhere high up on your resume so that they see that you're a self-starter. And you never know, you might actually meet somebody who can give you a job while you're volunteering. A lot of people who are already in the industry will volunteer just so that they can get management experience so that they can obviously move up the food chain. If you don't know anybody, well, that's still fine. It's just going to be a little harder. I recommend signing up for LinkedIn as soon as possible. Now, I'm not affiliated with them. They're not paying me to say anything about this. This is just what I feel works. So now you want to go to career fairs, and while you're there, try and meet as many people as you can from as many different companies, and just add them on LinkedIn. They're not going to reject you. Because here's the thing, a lot of big companies, they give out bonuses for trying to find good talent. So this will benefit you in a couple of ways. The first is now you have connections. That'll put you a big step ahead of the competition because now they know that you're not a freakish goblin. I mean, imagine you're trying to manage a team. If you have to choose between hiring someone with vast technical skills but no social skills, that's going to cause problems and fight all the way, or someone with slightly less technical skills but is not going to cause fights, you're probably going to want to choose the one that's going to be easier for you to manage. And now they're going to know you're easy to manage because they've met you face to face. And they're going to remember your name because you have them on LinkedIn. Now, another benefit of having LinkedIn is now people can come to you. They can search for you. If you don't have any way for staffing agencies to find you, like you're not out there, they're not going to find you on Facebook. They're going to find you on LinkedIn. It's better than not having any contact information at all. So maybe you're hunting for a job and you can't really find what specifically you're looking for. I suggest that you just settle for anything that pays better than minimum wage and just build your connections. I mean, there's nothing saying that you can't look for jobs while you already have a job. In fact, that's probably the better thing to do. If you have a steady income coming in, then you don't have to worry about making ends meet. It'll also help you negotiate a higher pay because now they have to steal you away from your current company and inevitably they're going to have to pay you more. This is what you call headhunting. Now, your job prospects are going to be different depending on what you've taken in school. Obviously, anybody from comp sci, engineering, anything medical is going to have a lot easier of a time finding a job right out of university than somebody with an English lit major. But contrary to what all these people will tell you, you actually can find a meaningful career with an English lit major. For example, I have a friend that was a legal aid for a while. You could also be a technical writer for an engineering firm. And you can be creative with your career prospects. I mean, you're not limited to what you've done with your degree. By that, I mean an English lit major doesn't necessarily have to do writing. I mean, you could try your hand at being an HR person. Think about this one. Airlines need someone to figure out where to run flights from and to. That's got to be a job. That's not going to be someone from engineering or comp sci doing that. And in my mind, that's a pretty rad career. Then there's a JET program. The JET program's a chance to teach English abroad in Japan. Basically, there's not a lot of English speakers in Japan, so they need actual native English speakers to teach at all of the high schools. I don't actually know how much it pays, but I've heard rumors that it's about 20 bucks an hour, which is very good money. Unless you're from Australia, in which case that's minimum wage. I mean, you don't have to go to Japan either. You could do China and Shanghai, you could do Korea. Really, you could go anywhere. Last I heard about the JET program, you only needed to have an undergraduate degree in order to apply. However, there are cutoff dates. And apparently a lot of the times you're going to be out in rural Japan. I mean, you can always just take the train into one of the big cities, but you're probably going to be alone unless you can actually speak the language. Which, by the way, the JET program does not require that you speak Japanese, only that you speak English at a native level. So let's say that you get an interview. If you're not used to doing interviews, it can be pretty scary, and especially if you actually need the job because you need to put food on the table. I recommend actually watching some YouTube videos on body language before going into a face-to-face interview. But if you actually have a phone interview, that's great because you don't have to worry about touching your face too much, making yourself look nervous, scrunching up. It's kind of funny how much you can tell from body language. Just basically look up what a relaxed pose is supposed to look like and just copy that. Just sit on a chair with a mirror in front of you and just copy that. Yeah, so this part of the painting process, I kind of messed up with the saturation of the colors on this woman's back. Basically, I just finish it up, I let it dry, and I paint over it. So for a large corporation, when you get into the interview, you'll probably see an HR person and they'll be judging you on your interpersonal skills, how nervous you are, basically just basic people skills. They'll also probably bring in the manager and maybe one or two technical staff. Chances are they won't actually bring in too many people because that'll take them away from their current task. And of course, they have to pay them to be there interviewing you. So imagine that they're making 80K per year. That's actually a pretty average salary here in Canada. So that roughly equates to about 40 bucks an hour. And if it's going to take a half hour to do the interview and you have 5 people there, well, that's 100 bucks that they spent just interviewing you. If you're right out of uni or you're more junior, chances are they might only give you 1 or 2 people to talk with. If you're in engineering or comp sci, you have the added advantage of being able to really easily read if you should be boasting your technical skills or your interpersonal skills. I mean, if the person that's interviewing you is very socially awkward, then give them all of your technical skills. If it looks like they have a social life, then you might want to do interpersonal skills. Now, if the manager that's going to be hiring you is really shy, timid, doesn't seem to be driving the interview process, that is a red flag. If you really need the money, take the job and continue to look for work elsewhere, but it could really blow up in your face sometime down the road. And that's because companies need proactive management. If the manager that's in the interview room with you is not proactive, then chances are the project might be in deep doo-doo. And if the project's in deep doo-doo, then you're going to be in deep doo-doo too. Haha lol. Now, I'm not going to go into negotiating salary or benefits or anything like that because that is a whole new kettle of fish. But you should probably be aiming for, at the bare minimum, 50K per year if you're in Canada doing a software gig. I will say that most people I know have started off with 60 though. I mean, all of this information is actually open to the public. Like you can just Google salary charts for different fields and different years in the business. Okay, so now let's say you have your job. Everything's fine and dandy, right? Well, inevitably the day is going to come where you have to find a new job because you either have been laid off, fired, or maybe you just don't like the job that you already have. Now, I am not a career advisor. These are just my opinions. These are opinions based on what I've experienced. Do not sue me. Now, depending on what country you're from, the laws regarding firing, laying off are going to be different. But one thing in common, it's going to suck if you get laid off. You should definitely save some cash in case of that emergency. Now, I'm not talking just $1,000 or $2,000. It's got to be like, I don't know, 3-4 months worth, maybe 6. I don't know. Just take as much money as you can, save it up in case you get laid off. And trust me, you're going to feel empowered if you have enough money to live off of for like 6 months. I mean, you're going to start taking risks. And inevitably, some of those risks are going to pay off. You might get more money. Now, don't think your company hasn't already realized this. One way to retain talent is to actually give them more money, which is great, but not everyone's going to do this. One of the tactics to watch out for is shifting goalposts. Maybe your manager's given you a deadline. Now, you've almost hit that deadline. Maybe you have 2 weeks left. Now, let's say your manager gives you a lot more work to get done by that same deadline. It's going to look like you didn't meet that deadline. Now they can use that to their advantage. And it's going to make you feel like you can't accomplish anything. And that's going to make you less likely to try and find other work elsewhere because you're not going to feel like you're confident enough to get that work. Now, maybe you've just bought a house, maybe you just had a kid. They can also use that against you because you're less likely to take risks if you have, let's say, a mortgage or like mouths to feed. Anyhow, I hope that wasn't too much to mull over. If you want to hear more of my opinions on how to succeed, yeah, just leave a comment. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.